We're back. Welcome to another episode of 7,000 Volts Living an Electrified Life. Today, we'll be talking about the sacrifices of a demanding business. Some of the sacrifices that you have to make in business is not that complicated, it's not that hard. It's really letting go of that spirit of fear, because fear keeps us from going to another level. It keeps us from making the right decisions. I'll give you my case in point. My first dump truck was a C7, a 83 C70, and I couldn't afford the trucks that I have today. Well, at least that's what I told myself. So I never really looked into finances. How do you finance a business? My take on financing a business and the equipment that you needed to get a job done was simple. It was, how much does something cost? Okay, I'm gonna save the money until I get it and I'll go pay cash for it. And of course I wasn't paying money to go pay cash for a brand new piece of equipment. It was always some type of used piece of equipment, which was a double-edged sword. And what I mean by that, because of the fear I used to live and walk in, I never believed that I could afford a new piece of equipment. And so I always got the used piece. And at the end of the day, it was always a nail in the coffin. And it cost me more buying that used piece of equipment than just buying it new. What do I mean by that? You go buy a used blower for 50 bucks at the pawn shop or from somebody online, and you're about to throw your arm out of socket to crank up this piece of junk that was already on its last leg. That's why somebody was selling it, or it was at the pawn shop. And that's not always the case with used equipment, but my experiences. So we just remember, I'm keeping my experiences. So but what it taught me is the downtime I had with this particular piece of equipment of always trying to get something fixed on it. By the time I got finished paying with my out of pocket, by the time I got finished downtime driving this piece of equipment to a shop to get fixed, I could have just bought a brand new blower, which we do now. I could have just bought a brand new piece of equipment and saved myself of all that heartache and pain of every time you turn around, every other day something else was wrong. Every other day something else was wrong. And so people ask, why do you buy new equipment? Well, that's one of the reasons right there. I operate differently. My mindset is totally different on how it used to be over 20 years ago. So that brings me to my next topic on planning. You don't plan to buy a new piece of equipment when your current piece of equipment is broken. That's bad planning. You schedule for, you kind of predict, you use knowledge and apply wisdom to realize when is it time to replace or supplement that piece of equipment. Well, I can tell you now, it's definitely not when your current piece of equipment, whether it's a chainsaw, tractor, stump grinder, boom truck, or grapple truck, is on its last leg, because that's the worst time to replace a piece of equipment. I'll say that again, people. That is the worst time to replace a car or a piece of equipment. Why do you say that, Mr. Tucker? I'm glad you asked. I say that because that's not proper planning. If you have to go and replace a car after it's broken down, that's a sad story, because now not only do you maybe have to rent a car or try to bum rides or take a taxi cab or Uber nowadays or Lyft, which is going to cost you extra money. Now you have to make a desperation move in replacing that car. That means you can't do your complete due diligence. You can't research to make sure you're getting a good deal. Are you buying a new car or are you buying a used car? Well, for a person that don't plan on buying a new vehicle, most likely they're going to buy a used car. So now they got to make sure they're rolling the dice and they're not crapping out, because it's a whole different ball game buying a used car versus a new car. I have experience in both. And I was talking to my editor producer over here, Mr. Ryan French. He had the same thing happen to him with some tires. He said that he had the budget to get tires, and he hadn't budgeted to get tires, and he wound up losing 2 tires in the same day. So what happens when that happens? Well, number one, there's no shopping around to make sure you're getting the best possible deal. 2, your back is on the wall and it's an emergency situation now, just like a tree if it fell on the house. And most time when a tree fell on the house, there were so many signs telling you that that tree needs to come out. Sometimes you even had an arborist come out like myself, tell you that this tree needs to come out, but you got so attached, or a person gets so attached to a tree, and they say, well, this tree was planted by my great-great-grandfather and it means so much, so we're gonna keep it. Hey, no problem. My job is to educate and keep it moving. So when Mr. French tires blew out, you know, it took time and extra money out of his day. And that's normally what happens when you have to go to an emergency situation when you don't do the proper planning in business. You have downtime, so all the jobs that were scheduled to get done, and it's like a domino effect. When something breaks and you don't have a backup plan, now Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday schedule has gotten shifted because of something that you wasn't prepared for. And it happens all the time. It's like a balancing act. A few weeks ago, like everything that could have happened did happen. And we weathered the storm. And because of our backup equipment that we have, we didn't miss a beat. I only had one job left to do, send the guys out to continue to do what needs to get done while I put the fires out, taking care of situations like a down stump grinder because it needed a starter, or a lift that needed a starter, or a tractor that needed a hydraulic hose, or a grapple truck that needed this or that. Some things you can't plan for, but you can be so advanced to when things happen, you don't miss a beat, you don't have downtime. And an interesting question is, when do you plan to get a new car? How do you plan to get a new car? Well, under my old way of thinking, the old mentality, the old me was how I grew up is when you get a new car, when the wheels fall off the car that you're driving. What does that mean? You drive it till it can't drive no more. Well, sometimes you got to do what you have to do, and if that's your mindset, that's the way you're always going to do it until you talk different, till you get the knowledge to know better and the wisdom to apply when you do it. So at my advanced stage in life, I'll put it that way, I don't wait till a truck or a vehicle is no longer useless or useful to me or anybody else before we decide to get rid of it. You put a time on it, you have a certain mileage or hours that's on a vehicle that you decide, now it's time to get a new car. Why? Because it's always the best time. You're not in a desperate situation. You're not gonna make a desperate move. You're not gonna see, when you make a desperate move, you'll sign up for high interest rates because now your back is on the wall. You have to have it. See, when you have to have it, it's like being at Disney World in the summertime and you're gonna pay $10 for a bottle of water. Like, who does that? Hey, when it's life or death situation and you're dying of thirst, it doesn't matter if that bottle of water costs you $100 a bottle. You probably have 5 of them with no hesitations. You put it on your credit card and won't think twice about it. And so the question is, how do you keep your back off the wall? And it's by planning. This is what business is. It's almost similar to life. If you can run a successful life, you can run a successful business with no hesitations. It's planning. And when you plan, you have better results. There's a saying, no one plans to fail, people fail to have a plan. And when you fail to have a plan, it's like there's always chaos, it's chaotic. There's always drama that surrounds you, whether it's family or friends. Every family member has that person. When you see the phone call and you see that person coming, it's like, oh boy, what do we feel to hear today? What drama's going on in their life today? And it's not that you don't want to hear, because we're all going to have problems, but it's always certain people that constantly has drama and problems. The more you talk about your problems, the more they grow. So we have to have a plan. We have to realize what I just said. What we talk about in other episodes grow. What you feed will grow. If I have 2 potted plants and I water the one on the left side more than I water the one on the right side, this is my more healthy plant. That's just what life is. The more we water something, good, bad, or indifferent, the more it will grow. So we stick to planning. We learn to plan. We learn to have a plan so we're not living a chaotic life. And so in my early years, before I got to the enlightened stage where I am today, I didn't understand that concept. I used to think I can buy everything with what I can save. Well, the true reality is I was never going to be able to ever earn my full potential without the right equipment. So at that point, if I would have stayed with that mentality that I had, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, because it would have been impossible for me to grow. Because when we trust in the God that we say we trust in, he said all things are possible for those who believe. And so once we believe that scripture, Matthew 9:23, what is there to fear? What is there to fear? All resources are available to us. Sometimes it's the fear that keeps us from tapping into those resources. There's no way I could have paid for this building in fear. There's no way I would have been able to build this business through fear. But it's because I got rid of that spirit of fear and started operating in faith, I'm able to plan. And through planning, I don't have a lot of emergency situations because I'm already prepared for it spiritually, mentally, and physically. And it just makes it easier. It's easy decisions to make. The cost doesn't matter. All it is numbers at the end of the day. That's all it is. And you can't have fear. See, fear will keep you from making those important decisions wisely. We have the knowledge of what we need, but do we have the wisdom to execute what we need in a timely manner? Or again, it's not emergency situations. And that's the way we grow. There's a lot of sacrifices in being successful, whether it's in your personal life or your business life. You'll hear me say that a lot because maybe it's possible, just maybe it's possible to run a successful business and not a successful life. Well, somebody's got to point that out to me, send me an email. I just don't see it. It's run hand in hand. It's almost the same thing, because when you can balance the two, then you'll be successful in everything that you do. Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. You're going to have your ups and downs. So balancing financially, there's sacrifices that's involved. Like credit cards. I fear credit cards. I fear personal debt. Again, when I was in the fearful stage of my life. But now that I'm in the enlightening stage, there's nothing wrong with credit cards. There's balance in credit cards. You have to understand how the cycle works. Most people, they'll just charge, and they wait for the bill to come. That's not balance. That's insanity. Let me say that again. That's insanity to just charge on your credit card and wait for the bill to come. The correct way that I found that works for me and my family and my business, when I use a credit card, I understand that billing cycle. I understand when it's due. I know how to take advantage of it, and I don't wait for the bill to come. If I charge $5,000 on that card, most likely I got 30 to 45 days for that $5,000 to be paid off that card. So what does that mean? I'm putting $500, $600 a week, maybe $1,000 a week. So by the time the bill comes, it's already paid off. Not only did I earn the points, I was able to take care of a financial need at 0% interest. He's like, you can't win. You're playing with house money. But the problem was when people don't know how to balance and make a financial sacrifice, they get these credit cards, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 credit cards, and they think it's free money. Who cares that you have $100,000 in credit card limits or $200,000 in credit card limits? It's no different if you had a $1,000 limit on a credit card. If you don't make payments and pay that balance at the end of that billing cycle, means you're going to be paying anywhere from 17 to 28% interest. Then the credit card company wins and you lose because you're paying more in interest than what you should be paying. A credit card is nothing more than a tool. And that's where the knowledge comes in, knowing how to use it, and wisdom, knowing how you pay it off. It's simple math. It's extra money that you can use as a tool, and a tool is all a credit card is. A vehicle is the same as a credit card. It's a tool. You have to know when that tool when that car is reaching that expiration date before you have to buy it again, and I'll further explain that in a second. You have to know when you need fuel. I've noticed and I've watched people, because I used to do this myself, we run the gas tank until it's on empty. That's a bad move. Why? Because it causes problems in your fuel tank. It causes your fuel tank to pick up dirt and any trash that's at the bottom of that tank. And where does it go? It ends up in your injectors, causing what? Car problems. And when you have car problems, now your car has to go to the mechanic shop. I advise this to anyone. Don't wait to payday. Even if you can only put $10 to $15, don't let your tank get below a quarter tank, because once it gets close to empty on a consistent basis, trust me, it's unwanted car problems that you don't want. So we'll touch on the expiration date of a car. Your car may be nearing 100,000 miles or so. If you bought that car new, my friend, it's about that time that you want to be looking to buy and trade that car in. Why? You already paid for it once. You don't want to pay for it twice, because these cars have an expiration date. Each component, whether it's the timing belt, the motor, the transmission, and those things are not inexpensive parts. You're not living in fear, you're just living ahead of the game. And so, do you really want to invest in a motor, in a car with over 100,000 miles in it? It's going to cost you, depends on the car, between $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Then you got to replace this, another $3,000 or $4,000. Or do you want to take that money and invest it in a new car? So not only do you have an up-to-date car, but you're balancing. And through the balance, you're staying ahead of the game, and you're staying out of emergency situations. It's emergency situations which gets most people to making bad decisions. The BD rule. How we stay away from bad decisions? Well, easy, by making wise decisions. The ones that we've learned from over time. And it's how you apply it. You know, when you can apply it to your business, or you can apply it to your personal life, or apply it to your work, it works hand in hand. Then you become what we call a good decision maker. GDM, a new acronym, good decision maker. Are you a GDM or not? My friends, listeners, watchers, that is a part of the process of balancing your books. You balance it by making these good decisions. And how do you make these good decisions? Well, you don't want a domino effect from one bad decision. And so you create what works for you. You write down this stuff, you try to manage it. Some people try to remember everything from memories. Some of us, we get binders and stuff, and we store this data away. And there's so much there's so many different digital ways that you can do it now that you don't have to use pen and paper. I'm still traditional. I'll use pen and paper, and I'll let my staff take care of the rest. But it's important to balance and knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, like the poker game, knowing when to move on from something. And to run a successful life in business, the trick is not having as many fires to put out. And you learn from the first fire. We're advanced. And now most buildings that you go in any commercial vehicle that you get in, if they're following the rules and regulations, they have what in the building of those commercial vehicles? We have a fire extinguisher. Why do they have a fire extinguisher? Because history has showed them when a fire extinguisher is present and you take it out and use it, you keep the fire from spreading. Without the fire extinguisher, you may lose a whole vehicle or a whole building or a whole house. I know it's not required to keep a fire extinguisher at your house, but I could tell you who have one at their house. We do. Why do we do? In case of a small fire, we don't lose the whole house. Some people might have a different agenda about that. They may want to do an insurance claim, so they let it burn. Well, I don't think that way, so that's not what I believe in. But a fire extinguisher will keep or protect a piece of property at the right given time. And so by understanding the little concept of that type of balance, we do the same thing with not only just knowing when to buy a piece of equipment or replace a piece of equipment. But for us, it's investing in our people, our employees, and people around us. Because the more you invest and the more we educate them to do and how to do what they do, the less problems you'll have when it comes concerning the customer. And when your guys are educated and they know what to do, it becomes easier. So I teach my guys everything they need to know, but I teach them one important thing. When a customer come and asks you a question, if you don't know, just say it. Hey, I don't know, but we'll get an answer for you. It's okay to say I don't know. And the problem is misinformation. When you give the customer the wrong information, that's starting an unnecessary fire. I do it all the time. A customer asks me a question, either because it's been a long day for me, or I just don't have the answer. I say, you know what, let me get back to you. I don't know. And that's how you not only keep a fire from starting, because some people are just a matter of fact. You tell them one thing, and it's the gospel, and you can't tell them anything different. Whether it's wrong, right, or indifferent, we have to be careful with this information. And so we train, we develop our guys, our people, our gals to understand what it is that we do, how you protect yourself. Because at the end of the day, everybody's protected from their own. It says it in the ANSI standards. Everybody's responsible for their own safety, and that's my priority personally. I haven't had a guy majorly get hurt. We haven't had anybody lose their life, and it's my prayer that we don't have, because we're going to continue to operate and train and teach, so we don't have to deal with those type of situations. That'd be tough. I would never want to make that call or that visit to somebody's home. So that portion is very, very important to me, that we educate and we have a clear understanding, because the more you educate and you can plan out, the easier things become as an operator. The Bible teaches raise up a child in the way they should go. So me personally, I teach my children, I teach my child the positive affirmations and how you operate, how you get better at things. And of course, I have no children at work, but I train up my employees like I'm like their family. That's how I teach them. Now, I don't treat them like children, because we all grown men and women that work in my Tucker Enterprise business. But that element brings the balance, because you're teaching them something they didn't know. And the most important thing from that is you got to have people on the bus that wants to learn, because you can teach all you want, but if you get a hard-headed person, male or female, that don't want to learn, you have to recognize that, and you have a business decision to make with that person. Why is that important? Because it takes a fire extinguisher to put out a small fire. It takes a fire truck to put out a bigger one. So you got to take a small fire with the extinguisher and put it out. That's how simple. It don't get no simpler than that. And it's tough when you get to know a person. Once you know a person, whether they're a family or they got recruited and they meant well, because people agendas change. And as a leader in your home or your business, you have to have an intuitive ear and intuition to understand what's happening. Some people are going to come to you for a season, and you have to recognize when that season may be over with you, because you have an executive and business decision to make at that point. I had to implement a rule in my home with one of my children, because they always get birthday parties, and my wife, she's gonna be mad at me for saying this, but I said, listen, these kids are not invited to every party. They don't have to go. I said, in fact, they get one party a month apiece. So they better choose wisely when they get an invitation if they really want to go to that party. Because sometimes you have to protect people from that. I have to protect my wife from being her, because she wants to take them to every party they're invited to. She has a big heart, and that's what she wants to do. But the reality is, as the leader of my household, there has to be some ground rules. I have to say, look, you need to rest. You can't be doing all this ripping. We already got enough ripping and running. She don't have to go to every party. So to offset, I said, listen, she gets one a month, and that's the end of that. Because my wife, she'll do it. She'll run those kids to every appointment. She'll run them to every invitation they got just because, oh, it's this friend. I said, well, how many best friends do she have? My kids are likable. They get a lot of invitations. Whatever the reason is, it's like if you don't have these rules, there'll be no order. Can you imagine the roads with no speed limits? Can you imagine there's already can be chaotic as it is. So there's checks and balances that has to be put in order to be successful. When I go to Publix or Walmart or Costco's or Sam's Club, I got free range to buy anything that I want. Whether it's all the cakes, the brownies, but I have to use wisdom. Do I really want to spend my money on all this junk food, all this stuff that looks pleasing to the eyes? Or am I disciplined enough to say, yeah, no, this is not good for me? Yes, I can afford to get it if I want to. No, this is not how I want to spend my money. And no, this is not healthy to buy all these sweets and junk food just because I see it. Just because it's there doesn't mean we need to eat it. Along with that balance, you figure out ways to be involved in your community and give back. That entails not only customer service barbecues for your customers, it includes maybe doing something nice for people that is the most deserving, where you got to trim a tree, cut a tree down at no cost to that person that really needs it because they had a hazardous tree that they really couldn't afford to have removed financially. So this is where intuitive ear comes in and understand a finger on the pulse that, hey, listen, this is a perfect situation for me to help out and be a blessing to this person. Because in general, I always want to give and use value more than I take from a person in cash value. I want to do right by the person. I want to earn their business. But most importantly, when those can't afford anything in cash value, but there's a need there, it's the time to step up to the plate and be that superhero for the day. Not something to be televised or something that, oh, that a boy patting yourself on the back. Oh, look what I did. That's not how I roll. There's not a lot of material from me of the things that we have done in the community to give back and help our neighbors, because that's just, to me, it's the right thing to do. It doesn't need a press release on that. You move in silence. You do it because you can. The Bible says, out of your abundance you give. And so out of abundance, and sometimes out of your sacrifice, is more than what you can, it's bigger than a financial gift. Sometimes just that in kind, hey, I'm there to do it. And that's very important. That brings the balance. That brings the balance to your personal life. That brings balance to your business of being an asset to whatever community that you're in. So you always look for those ways. It's not always looking for a check. You're looking for ways to check up on somebody and to be that impact, be that influence, to be just different than the norm in what we see. Our lives get busy. We get caught up with what we're doing with our own family and our own business. And sometimes we forget to give back. But it's simple. You don't have to be a business owner to be a volunteer. You don't have to wait for retirement and say, I'm a volunteer all my time when I'm retired and I have free time. You create that time to do nice things for people. We're creators by nature, and we can do anything that we create in our life to do. And it becomes simpler and simpler once we bring that balance in and be intentional about being a help, not only in the community, but abroad, if that's your way of helping, because your work is different than my work. My work is more physical. Some people have a service or a product or service. Some people work online, so you can help in different ways. There's so many different things you can do to help out in any community, and outside of the church, outside of, oh, I'm doing it because this is what my church is doing. You do it because it becomes a part of your DNA to be a world changer, to be a history maker, to make a difference in somebody else's lives besides you and your few, so outside of you and your family. And so you look for those opportunities. And when you look for those opportunities, they always present themselves. And It just becomes a part of your everyday routine. It becomes a part of your arsenal, and it just makes you a better you. I appreciate your time once again for joining us on 7,000 Volts, Living an Electrified Life. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember to be on the lookout for my book. You can go to my website, ljtucker.com, for more information. Thank you. Have a great day and have a great week.